I've only been watching the NFL for a year and a half, but with the 2025 NFL season tipping off in a few days, I thought to myself, why don't I test my ball knowledge? And I came up with 2 ideas that could test my knowledge. 1, joining fantasy football. I decided to join 2 different leagues, one with my family who have little to no ball knowledge, which I'm just using to get an easy win. And the other one is a random American league I joined that I'm probably going to get cooked in because I picked last. But if it counts for anything, I got an A draft grade. But enough rambling about fantasy football. It's time to talk about the second thing I'm going to do to test my football knowledge. The premise of this video, I'm going to attempt to predict the entire NFL season. So grab your popcorn and let's get into it. Okay, so this video is going to be split into 3 parts. 1, I'm going to use a letter predictor to predict every game of the regular season for the division standings and playoff fixture. 2, I will give my award predictions. And 3, I will predict the playoffs and Super Bowl. So let's get into it, starting with the AFC and then the NFC. I have the Jets finishing last in the AFC East with a 6-11 record. Don't get me wrong, I love Justin Fields as much as the next guy, but I predicted that the Jets would only win 6 games. Even with offensive weapons like Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, I think the Jets will miss the playoffs for the 15th straight season. Coming in at 3 in the division, I have the Miami Dolphins finishing with a 7-10 record. This team is a Tua concussion and a Tyreek controversy away from being a bottom 3 team in the NFL. However, if they stay healthy, I could see this roster racking up some wins. Regardless, I don't think they are getting that elusive playoff win anytime soon. Second in the division, winning 4 more games than last year, I have the Patriots finishing with an 8-9 record. I think Drake May is going to have a breakout season after starting 12 games last year. I like their offseason additions, adding Stephon Diggs, who, if healthy, can be the number 1 option at receiver, as well as drafting Will Campbell 4th overall to boost that O-line. I think in a year or 2, this squad could definitely give the Bills a run for the division. And coming in first in the AFC East for the 6th straight season, I have the Buffalo Bills, led by the reigning MVP Josh Allen, with a 16-1 record. Yes, I know 16 wins seems a bit steep. I don't think they'll get 16, but that's what I predicted on the predictor. But regardless, I think the Bills will once again win the division by a wide margin. Finishing last in the AFC West this year, in my opinion, will be the Raiders with a 6-11 record. I think the Raiders have had a very underrated offseason, trading a 3rd-round pick for Geno Smith to finally have a competent quarterback for the first time since Derek Carr. And they also drafted running back Ashton Genty, who I think can win Offensive Rookie of the Year. However, this is one of the toughest divisions in the NFL, and I think they will struggle to even win one division matchup. Our harsh 3rd in the division, I have the Broncos finishing 11-6. I think this roster will take another step forward from last year, and Bo Nix will show more signs of improvement. This defense will surely be top 5 in the league, led by the reigning DPOY PS2. Even though they won't win the division this year, I think they will definitely be a wildcard team. Second in the division this year, I have the Chargers finishing 12-5 and just barely missing out on the division title. Jim Harbaugh helped turn this team around last year, and with Justin Herbert, who I think will easily be a top 10 quarterback this season, they will for sure feature in playoff football. For the 10th straight season, I have the Chiefs winning the division, but just barely with a 13-4 record. After a disappointing Super Bowl performance, I think the Chiefs will be back to winning games, especially if Mahomes can get back to playing at an elite level. They will be scary, considering they won 15 games and finished on top of the AFC, with him having probably the worst season of his career. Last in the AFC North this season, I think, will be the Browns with a 3-14 record. They had one of the weirdest quarterback rooms in the league, but they cut Snoop Huntley and traded Kenny Pickett. So now they are left with Joe Flacco, who will be the starter for the start of the season, and two rookies in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, who both had up and down preseasons. And how could I forget the criminal Deshaun Watson, who is currently on a IR as he injured his Achilles last year. I honestly don't know why the Browns just don't cut him and try to save some money on his awful contract, because he brings a lot of negative PR for a struggling franchise just to not play. But in good news, they did decide to pay their star D-end Myles Garrett, unlike some teams. So I believe the future is bright in Cleveland. Third, in my opinion, will be the Steelers, finishing with a measly 4-13 record. Even with them bringing in Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf, I think they will have a losing record and break the 21 consecutive years with a winning season. However, I could see them winning a few more games than what I predicted, but they just had a hard schedule, so I couldn't find them any more wins. Second in the division, I have the Bengals with a 11-6 record. Outside of last year's sack leader Trey Hendrickson, this defense honestly sucks. But does it really matter when you have Joe Burrow throwing the ball to Jamar Chase? Winning the AFC North once again, I think, will be the Ravens with a 15-2 record. The Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry backfield is sure to terrorize the league in the regular season, but if they can play well in the playoffs, that's still up for debate. Last in the AFC South, I think, will be the Jaguars with a 4-13 record. They have great weapons such as Brian Thomas Jr. and the newly drafted Travis Hunter, but I just don't think Trevor Lawrence will lead this team to success. Third, I think, will be the Colts, also with a 4-13 record. The QB situation is just messy, with them starting Daniel Jones for week 1. It's like they have just given up on Anthony Richardson. Jonathan Taylor will have to have a Saquon Barkley type season for this team to have any chance of winning the division. Second, I think, will be the Titans with a 5-12 record. I reckon Cam Ward will show some promising signs, but this team has many holes, so I think it'll be another few years before they go back to the playoffs. Top of the division by a mile will be the Texans with a 12-5 record. They have one of the easiest divisions in football and led by CJ Stroud, who is looking to have a bounce-back season after he kind of struggled last year. This team will have no trouble racking up some wins. Now, it's time for the NFC. Last in the division, I think, will be the Giants with a 3-14 record. This Giants team looks extremely good. They have an absolute scary D-line that was further improved with the drafting of Abdul Carter 3rd overall. They also signed Russell Wilson to be the quarterback to start the year and drafted Jackson Dart, who I think looks absolutely legit. But my personal favorite move was the signing of Jameis Winston, who is just absolutely hilarious and will be a great locker room presence for a young team. With this being said, though, the NFL gave them an extremely tough schedule, so they will likely struggle to win many games, but in a year or two, they will definitely contend for the division. Third, in my opinion, will be the Cowboys with a 4-13 record. And I did this before the Micah Parsons trade, so this team looks even worse than before. I think Dak Prescott is kind of overrated and he won't lead this team to success. Second in the division with a 12-5 record will be the Commanders. After losing in the NFC Championship last season, I think they will barely lose a division on the last game of the season. However, led by Jaden Daniels, they will still have a very respectable season and be a wild card team. Finishing on top of the division with a 14-3 record will be the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Eagles. They lost some key pieces this offseason, but they are the Super Bowl champs for a reason and should be just fine. Last in the NFC West this year will be the 49ers with an 8-9 record. This is the only division in the NFL where I think every team has a legitimate chance at winning it. However, I have the Niners last due to the roster moves they had to make to free up cap space for Brock Purdy's new extension. Their success really depends on health, especially running back CMC, who played just 4 games last year. They could sneakily win the division, but I think they'll finish last. Third is going to be the Rams, also with an 8-9 record. I know this is surprising considering the stacked receiver room, but I'm concerned with Matthew Stafford's health. But if everything goes according to plan, they could definitely be a force. Second in the division, finishing with a 9-8 record, I think will be the Seahawks. They signed Sam Darnold, who had an exceptional season last year with the Vikings. Some would argue that it was due to a phenomenal system, which is probably true, but you can't discredit what he did. I think they will have a good season, but miss the playoffs. Okay, so this might be a bit biased, but I have the Cardinals winning the division with a 11-6 record. Before you go to the comments and flame me, just hear me out. They have an easy first half of the schedule, so they should rack up some early wins and win some home games towards the end. Although it might seem unrealistic, I think this division is wide open, so there is a chance that we can win the division. Last in the division, I have the Bears with a 7-10 record. I'm intrigued to see how much Caleb Williams has developed over the offseason. This is a very tough division though, so I'm giving them a respectable 7 wins, but they will still finish on the bottom of the division. Third in the division, I have the Vikings with a 10-7 record. I originally had the Vikings second, but after the Micah Parsons trade, I had to put Green Bay above them. I think JJ McCarthy will take some time to warm up, but soon enough he will get used to this awesome Vikings system led by Kevin O'Connell, and I think he will have extreme fun playing with weapons like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Second in the division, I have the Packers with a 11-6 record. As you guys already know, I had them missing the playoffs, but I would be absolutely stupid to not have them at least as a wildcard team after the trade they made. And coming in first in the division, I have the Lions with a 12-5 record. After finishing on top of the NFC last season and still losing in the divisional round, they will be looking to bounce back. However, after losing both their coordinators, they might have to adjust, but I think they're good enough to still win the division. Last in the division, I have the Saints with a horrible 1-16 record. You can learn a lot about a team by their QB room, and the Saints quarterbacks include a nearly 26-year-old rookie, Tyler Show, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener. Yeah, this does not really scream good. I think they're going to struggle to win many, if not any games this season. In third, I have the Falcons with a 4-13 record. I think Bijan might win Offensive Player of the Year, but I just don't see this team making the playoffs. Though, I could definitely see them winning more games than I predicted. Second in the division, I think, will be the Buccaneers with a 10-7 record. I love this Bucs roster led by Baker Mayfield, and I think they will win some games this year. However, I don't think they'll win the division, but I still think they'll be a wildcard team. And winning the division, I have a surprising one. The Panthers with a 11-6 record. I think Bryce Young will have a great season, and lead this team to a division title. It might be a bit controversial, but I'm calling my shot. The Panthers will win the NFC South this year. Okay, so before I predict the playoffs and the Super Bowl, I thought I would try to predict some of the awards. For Protector of the Year, this is a new award, and I honestly don't know too much about offensive linemen, except that I know they're really important for a team's offense as they protect the quarterback. But I have heard lots of people hyping up Penei Sewell, so let's go with him. Coach of the Year. If the Panthers win the division like I predicted, I think Dave Canales will win this award. Comeback Player of the Year. I think will be Christian McCaffrey. If he can stay healthy, I think this award will be his. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going Travis Hunter. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to pick Ashton Jeanty, who I think will put up tons of yards. And for Defensive Player of the Year, I honestly think after being traded, Micah Parsons will be out for revenge and have a career year winning this award. Offensive Player of the Year is basically the best non-quarterback, so give me Jamar Chase. And for MVP, I just picked his teammate a second ago. Give me Joe Burrow. It's time for my playoff predictions. For the first wildcard matchup, it is the second-seeded Ravens taking on the 7th-seeded Broncos. I like both these teams, but I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens because I trust Lamar Jackson. The next matchup is between the 3-seeded Chiefs and the 6th-seeded Bengals. I'm going to predict the upset, and I think the Bengals will beat the Chiefs and Burrowhead will be back. The final AFC wildcard matchup is between the 4th-seeded Texans and the 5th-seeded Chargers. A rematch from last year's wildcard games, both the teams in the same positions in Houston, but this time I'm taking the Chargers to win. Over to the NFC, the 2nd-seeded Lions versus the 7th-seed Buccaneers. I think the Lions will just barely beat the Buccaneers. Next matchup is between my Cardinals, who are the 3-seed, and the 6-seeded Packers. I would have tipped the Cardinals, but it was already a long shot having them win the division, and it's a tough matchup against the Micah Parsons Packers, so I think the Packers are going to beat my Cardinals. And the final NFC wildcard matchup is between the Panthers, who are the 4-seed, and the 5th-seeded Commanders. I think this is going to be a battle between Bryce Young and Jaden Daniels, but I trust Jaden Daniels more, so give me Jaden Daniels to win another playoff game away from home. The first divisional round matchup is between the number 1-seeded Bills and the 6th-seeded Bengals. I think this will be an all-time classic of a game, but it is in Orchard Park, and I think at home, Josh Allen and the Bills are going to just destroy a weak Bengals defense and head to the AFC Championship game. The second divisional round matchup is between the 2nd-seeded Ravens and the 5th-seeded Chargers. I think in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is going to put on a show and lead the Ravens to the AFC Championship. Over to the NFC side, and it's the number 1-seeded Eagles versus the number 6-seeded Packers. This is a rematch of last year's wildcard matchup, but I think the result will be different. I think the Packers will continue their magical playoff run and defeat the reigning Super Bowl champions in the divisional round and head to the NFC Championship game. And facing them will either be the 2nd-seeded Lions versus the 5th-seeded Commanders. The Lions lost to the Commanders in last year's divisional round, and I think it'll happen again. I just think this Lions team is a bit weaker than last year, so I have no reason why Jaden Daniels can't go to his second straight NFC Championship game. The AFC Championship game will be between the number 1-seeded Bills and the number 2-seeded Ravens. The two best quarterbacks in the league will go at it for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and with Mahomes not around, I think it'll be Josh Allen and the Bills who will beat the Ravens at home at Orchard Park and head to the Super Bowl with a very legitimate chance of winning it all. And for the NFC Championship game, we have the 5th seeded Commanders, who after winning 2 games on the road, they will be at home in Washington, and they're playing the 6th seeded Packers, who with Micah Parsons, I think they will upset the Commanders and head to the Super Bowl to take on the Bills. Let me set the scene. The number 1 seeded Bills from the AFC, the number 6 seeded Packers from the NFC in the Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium. And I think it'll be the Bills winning this game due to me being able to trust Josh Allen more than Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love might struggle on the big stage. And I think Josh Allen will finally get the monkey off his back and win a Super Bowl. Hey, it's Max. I just want to apologize once again for the late upload. This just took weeks to edit, but I'm sorry. I'm thinking about doing the same thing for the NBA season, so I'll start that a bit earlier, so hopefully I have that out on time. But if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and if you have any video ideas like mini sports documentaries that you want me to do, I'm all ears. I don't get many comments, so yeah, see you in another one.